Tonight on the SLP, we bring another fan addition to the table with Northern Kentucky Bigfoot Sightings and special guest Chris Cullinan. How many sightings are coming out of Kentucky? Find out tonight. And as promised, a breakdown of the newest Discovering Bigfoot presentation on Netflix and an epic rant to follow. Because, seriously, that thing was frickin' boring. Is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Anyways. And now, here's your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Hello, 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 shalom, and the end of the Hanukkah season to you, and happy Merry Christmas for the rest of the season. That is right. We are on to the Merry Christmas season, finally, and this is the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And as they said in the intro, I'm Reverend Jeff, and this guy over here, that guy is Chris Cullinan. That's right. Amateur Bigfoot researcher. I thought we discussed that you were investigating, but whatever. I'm just messing with you.
Oh, well, whatever. Either way works.
I'm like, who do you think you are, Jane Goodall? I mean, you're not researching anything. You're investigating Bigfoot sightings. But that's okay.
I'm Jane Goodall up in here.
That's right. I digress. Anyhow, we are here. You are there. That makes the whole thing awesome. And we are talking about Northern Kentucky Sasquatches this evening. But as usual, we got a little bit of stuff we're going to get to first off out of the gate, and that's some news of the day. That's right. I got to now get past this stupid freaking white box that Google loves to put on my computer, and it's so very annoying. I mean, like to the point that I just want to punch the machine and break it. That's how annoying this thing really has become. You would think after all these months that they would be able to solve it, but no, I digress. Here we are. Hey, macaques have been monkeying around with deer in Japan, researchers discover. Now, this is a very obvious thing to have happen. And if you watch the video, the monkeys come down of the trees and they push the deer around, and the deer chase them, and the monkeys run back up into the tree, and ha ha ha, it's very funny. Recently, I was watching a video of a gibbon pulling the ears of a tiger and doing the same thing. I mean, look, there's poking the bear, and then there's pulling the ears of a tiger. I'm not really too sure that was too smart on the gibbon's part. That that pulling the ears one too often, you're going to get eaten by that tiger. But University of Lethbridge, Canada, witnessed several encounters between the animals in the forest in the national park in central Japan. Most involved pelvic thrusting. That's right. The monkeys are coming down and fake banging the deer at the back of the deer. Jeez. They're also making a squeaking sexual sound a bit and sniffed and pulled on the deer's antlers. They used to laugh and call him names. I mean, come on. Seriously, Huffington Post? Yes, Chris.
They don't have anything better to report on, so they're just doing this.
Christmas time in the city. All right, let's move on. Chimpanzee's death in Uganda is pinned on the human cold virus. That's right. We talk about how close these animals are to us. You know, they are our genetic cousins. I mean, look, you're literally like 50% banana, and I'm not even kidding with that. Your genetic structure is literally 54% the same as a damn banana, but you're like 97% or better the same as this freaking chimpanzee that's sitting over here. And, you know, in the wild, the chimpanzees face a number of dire threats ranging from poachers to predators to deforestation. But now they're investigating an outbreak of respiratory disease in a community of wild chimpanzees in Uganda National Park. They were surprised and dismayed to discover that the human common cold virus known as rhinovirus C was killing healthy chimps. Now, I'm a daddy, and I raised my kids, and I changed a lot of friggin' diapers, and I got news for you. I've caught the rhinovirus from my infant. And you want to talk about heaps and heaps and heaps of green diarrhea to the point that you can't even sleep in your bed 20 feet away. No, you better like sit on a chair outside of the bathroom and watch TV, because otherwise you're going to shit yourself before you get there. 19 days straight, I was so dehydrated to the point that I almost needed to be hospitalized to get better from it. And it's just a virus. And the only thing they can do for you is let it run its course. I went to the doctor several times, and I got the same answer. Well, I can make you stop evacuating, but it won't make it stop building up. So that will probably kill you faster.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Exactly. You would die from a buildup of
chimpanzee
in your system. Like
poor 2-year-old chimpanzee. Just imagine little I don't know, Caesar the ape from Planet of the Apes, little baby Caesar going and shitting his bowels out. It's like,
oh, poor guy, just dying of dysentery and friggin' dehydration, hanging off of a tree with turds just running down his leg because there's nothing else he can do about it. Seriously, the common cold. No, that's not the common cold. That's something pretty freaking worse than the common cold. But yeah,
common cold is gonna be crapping my balls.
An explosive outbreak of severe coughing and sneezing went along with it as well. Yeah, I'm sure it did. And every time they coughed or sneezed, a bunch of turds went flying out their butt. Oh, what a nightmare for me. And I've caught that virus a couple of times because I've had 2 babies.
I've had stuff like that before, and it was a long time ago, but I remember it. Good Lord, you couldn't tell. You had to, like, I can't release it, or else I'm going to crap myself in the entire freaking car I'm in if I do that crap. So,
oh man, this was really, really bad. Okay, hey, thousands of people are hunting for the yowie, and they're starting to think they're on to something. We reckon we might find something out. The Sunshine Coast Yowie Research, they want your help, and they're having problems with possible yowies, and they're willing to pay any $100 if they come forward. They'll investigate it, and they'll get evidence, or convinced you have yowies, will pay you $100 cash money. Sunshine Coast only areas at the moment. Admins and their families are not permitted with this offer. Yeah, fuckers. The team, sometimes up to a dozen people, were chasing reports that birds had been viciously killed on farms across Queensland's Sunshine Coast. Over the next few months, they would head out on evening expeditions across inland national parks, catching sight of yowie footprints and taking photos of broken tree branches that can only be the work of the yowie. Now, I'm a fan of Finding Bigfoot, no matter how ridiculous it is. And where's our last season? Like, they had an entire thing at Bluff Creek last April, so that they could have this whole season finale thing. And here it is, nearly December, and we still haven't seen it. And the whole 50th anniversary of Bluff
show. I thought they ended the show already. I thought they ended the show already. Like, the season finale was a while ago. I mean, prove me wrong, but I thought.
Well, they filmed it. Yes, they filmed it, but they never put it on TV. Not that I know of. I'm pretty sure we're missing of Finding Bigfoot. If it was on, maybe I need to go back. Maybe I missed it. Was it like 4 episodes or something? I don't know, but I never saw that Bluff Creek episode where they had the Bigfoot celebration and stuff down there with Bob Gimlin. Anyhow. It's the same type of thing with this with the yowie research. It's Cliff of Finding Bigfoot. When they were in Australia researching the yowie, he's like, it's one of the only places I've ever felt that I was close to something that was almost human but not. So he gives it some credibility down there, and Cliff's about the only one that yeah. To an extent,
I'll give Cliff the credibility of that.
Right, to an extent,
he's an honest man.
He tries to be. Yes, absolutely.
He'll be honest. Yeah. Bobo seems like, I don't know how much we care about that, but yeah, Bobo's kind of out there. So go ahead.
The OPB.org tells us that film introducing Bigfoot to the world is still mysterious 50 years later. That's right. Although it's been decades since the Patterson-Gimlin film turned Northwest legend Bigfoot into a household name, the footage and stories behind it still remain fascinating 50 years later. It goes on to be a 50th anniversary celebration of the Patterson-Gimlin. It's a concrete proof for Bigfooters around the globe that the Sasquatch is in fact real. And you can't prove that Bigfoot is real by this video, but it really, really, really should solidify in your mind that that's not a human in a suit. The stabilization that's been done by M.K. Davis is so very good that if there were any flaws in the suit, you would be able to see them. It is definitely not a friggin' pullover hip waders with an old football helmet made out of horse hide, as one-eyed friggin' what the hell is his name? The guy who said he was in the hermaphrodite. No, Hieronymus. Sorry. As old One-Eyed Bob said. Yeah, supposedly that's a one-eyed guy in 150 pounds of gear just strolling across that sandbar in clown shoes.
Watch that.
No problem. Right.
Yeah. 6'5" and carrying 150 pounds of that on me would not be easy. So
no, I mean, and just having feet that aren't your own. Yeah,
2 feet that are my own and 2 giant breasts looking things in the front. That would be kind of hard to walk smoothly like it is right across a giant sandbar or washout river.
And then to be able to walk up an incline that's so steep that humans really had a very difficult time pulling themselves up the incline to follow the trackway, to where she walked up the side of the hill and just sat down and watched everybody to figure out what they were doing.
Yeah, just walk up there smoothly without stumbling. I mean, that would be...
that
near impossible.
An animal that has a giant ass with great big old quad muscles that are made and designed to walk up hills. That's what it would take.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really what it is.
What we have on screen right there. Anyhow, yeah, you can check that one out. And here, it's finally here, people. Now, all of you fools that ran out and spent $6.99 on Amazon to watch this, God bless you. You know, you put money in the man's pocket for the next hoax. That's basically what you did. I had told everybody that was doing it that it was coming out on Netflix and it was coming out soon. Nobody believed me, but December 15th it hit, and I watched it. And as of last week, I told everybody out there that it was out. We should all watch it. And here we are a week later, and lots of people have. And I have talked to a gambit of people across the board, from woo and not woo to biological Bigfoot to Todd supporters to non-Todd supporters. Everybody wants to dismiss non-Winky Blinky. Everybody just wants to kind of discount that. Yeah, maybe those are fakes. Okay, maybe you're right on that. But boy, that devil face, that black one, that just has me convinced that he got the goods, man. That is a real Bigfoot. And it's like the most ridiculous example out of all of them to me. It doesn't have a hair. It doesn't have an eyebrow. It doesn't. It's literally like a face with a bunch of black shoe polish on it. There's not even follicles for hair to be in anywhere around the face. So the first Bigfoot he gives us is a flock Muppet looking thing with shaggy fun fur. The second Muppet he gives us is the patty head thing, fully covered in hair all the way across, all the way down its lips. I mean, it's got hair everywhere. And then we get the black demon thing with no hair and human eyes. Now,
yeah,
okay. So the video has you convinced. Wonderful. That's fine. You're convinced that that's a living thing. It is a living thing. It's a human in makeup. But I'll give you, okay, fine. You're convinced that that's a living thing in that little 4-inch by 3-inch square hole in a log. But did you listen to what he said? As he's describing how he got this footage for you, he's running around like teenagers filming a movie in the woods, setting up GoPros and running past them and jumping into secret locations so he can film this thing. And 2, he was able to spot it 50 yards away before he started to zoom in on it with his 50x optical zoom camera. The first one, he couldn't get it to focus in on it, so he finally put that one down and got another camera out, and was able to fiddle with that one a long enough time for the thing to not move or do much of anything besides just kind of there and blink one eyeball, and finally get the money shot before the battery died. It's not so much the video itself, it's the description of how he obtained it. Go back and watch it. Don't even take my word for it. Go back and rewatch that part of the documentary and see exactly what I'm talking about, and see if you can believe what he said. Because then I want you to go out tomorrow and go 50 yards away from something. Like, I want you to take a piece of tape or a piece of paper 4 inches by 3 inches, and I want you to go tape it to a tree somewhere. And then I want you to pace off 50 yards. And I want you to see if you could actually identify anything in that hole. Because I'm going to guarantee
that's really what it is.
Can't. You can't see anything. You wouldn't be able to. With your naked eye, you don't even see that piece of paper at 50 yards, I would bet. Especially if that piece of paper is black on a brown tree. You follow me? So the description of how he saw the creature to be able to film it in the first place is so misgiving and unbelievable to the point that I can't believe the footage that he gathered. Either he's lying about how he got the footage or the footage isn't genuine.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, anything standing is just really suspect in general. So, I mean, just take it with a grain of salt.
Well, that's
so.
Yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to. But the problem, though, Chris, is we've got Dr. Meldrum and Dr. Bendernagel sitting in camp with this guy. The two most credible PhDs in Bigfoot are in this documentary, working hand in hand with this man.
That's the sad reality and the sad part about what's come out of all this.
So we can't just ignore it without saying anything about it, because the public out there deserves to know that this man has been declared a fraud by the entire community, not just me. I'm not just harping. These aren't my actions, people. I'm just pointing them out. I ain't got nothing to do with Todd Standing.
Moneymaker about him. When Matt Moneymaker and the Finding Bigfoot team, him and Bobo say, yeah, he's had a past of hoaxing stuff and he's really suspicious sometimes. You know that guy is not meant to be trusted. Like with anything. Right.
Mr. I think you saw a Sasquatch says, yeah, I don't think I can believe this footage.
It was probably. He says, yeah, Todd Standing, no, he's really not to be trusted. So I'm going to go with him and Jeff here and anybody really that's sane says Todd Standing bullshits 99.999% of the time. So
I talk to people who are close to Meldrum. I am friends with people who are personal friends with Dr. Meldrum. I'm not that much of an asshole, people. I'm really not. People think that I'm this giant asshole, but I'm not. I have a bad reputation for being blunt and to the point with things because I don't have time to beat around the bush. Don't lie to me. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me the damn truth. But I recently, like as of yesterday, talked to people who are close to Meldrum who still can't get a straight answer out of him either. When I tell people that I can't believe that any of this evidence is real because Dr. Meldrum and Todd Standing have had this out there for 4 years. The blackface footage was captured in 2013. Yet to this date, there's been no press conference from Dr. Meldrum and Todd Standing hand by hand, declaring to the world that these are real Bigfoot videos and that Sasquatch is absolutely something that should be researched by science and proven to exist, because these HD videos prove it. Because that's all it took of the Billy Ape. That's all it took of the pygmy hippo. That's all it took for several new mammal species in the Congo was 10 to 12 seconds of short HD video to declare that those animals were real. Why haven't we had a press conference with any of that? Why doesn't Dr. Meldrum talk about it at any conference he goes to? He uses the Patterson footage and the footprints that came from that as part of his presentation, but yet he doesn't talk about anything that he's done with Todd Standing in the meantime.
Yeah, it's again like the high probably are. I mean, just looking at it just plainly, but again, if he mentions Patterson Gimlin straight up or anybody else, but says, not it just is. If mum's the word about Todd Standing, then I mean, it says a lot about it.
And now they're out, and I've heard new things that they're out fishing for money for a new DNA study. That there's some hair out there that's actually been around for quite some time. Was actually sent once in for testing and got lost. But there was enough of it. There's plenty of it that there's supposed to be a study based around it. But I put on the brakes and I went, hey, what happened to that $7,000 with the Olympic project nest testing that y'all wanted from the community?
Yeah, wasn't that Melba Ketchum that headed that?
No. That was Dr. Meldrum heading it for Derek Randall's and the Olympic project is what that was. That had nothing to do with Melba Ketchum. That was 100% the Olympic project and Dr. Meldrum with the Bigfoot nest DNA study. They want to do touch DNA and just search it for any DNA that's in there. Let's run $7,000 worth of tests just to find out what the hell was in there. But
yeah, really.
We still haven't had any results from that one. But if you remember back 2 years ago now with the psych study, I actually delivered the DNA results to people here in America because he refused to. Even though the documentary was released in Europe, in England, it was out there and people could watch it because I did. I actually contacted people on the internet through Facebook and gave them the results of their own testing. It was amazing that nobody had bothered to follow up with any of this stuff. And that is the type of thing that happens when you trust this man to run stuff. And here he is working with Todd Standing. I'm not trying to ruin the man. I'm just trying to say he's also the man that was involved with the Falcon Project, who put people in the field for a 6-month study on the ground, promised to support them, and didn't have the money to do so. Didn't have any money in the bank to even buy supplies for the guys that were already in the field.
Yeah, I'm not as really well-versed about some of the different projects for the most part. I usually hear about it when the rest of the public does. But, I mean, anybody in the crowd wants to hear about that, especially talk to Jeff here. He's the one who knows all about this stuff.
Well, it's not that I don't want to keep tabs on it, but the same name just keeps coming up over and over and over again with these projects that are just crap. And this name is Don Jeffrey Meldrum. The one guy who's supposed to be the foremost Bigfoot expert in the world, according to the Discovery Channel. He's the Discovery Channel Bigfoot expert. Even puts that in his own posts. Yet, in this documentary, he may have seen a shadowy figure in his night vision that might, some sort, possibly be a Bigfoot. And he leaves before dawn. The foremost Bigfoot expert in the world is out investigating in Bigfoot territory. There's no doubt that that's Bigfoot territory. I know other people who have investigated that area. I know where that area came from. Yeah. And I know that there's Bigfoot there. I have no doubt in the world that they're playing around in Bigfoot territory. And like I said,
Rockies, I mean, that's just, that's other than Northwest Washington, Pacific Northwest of America. I mean, that's again a prime Bigfoot territory up there. I mean, that's
right, and you know, it's not a matter that, and I even said that I wanted to watch the documentary so that I could see firsthand all of the footage that he's put together for it and all of the stuff he's going to present to people, because the sun has to shine on a dog's ass sometimes. Maybe, just maybe, he got lucky with something, but no, absolutely nothing is this. And what's really gotten to me over the heated discussions, I wouldn't say arguments, but some people just don't understand why I'm just like, you cannot trust anything this man puts forward. Everybody's concentrating on the wrong footage. He's wowing you with the damn blackface footage, but the disappearing apple trick. Now that was interesting footage. No one's even mentioned it to me. No one's, those disappearing apples. What about that? What do you think? What was going on with that? And then he put 3 apples out as bait and was walking around camp and filming this and filming that. And look, when I stand up, you can see that the first apple's gone. If you look really close, you can almost see it taken. Well, damn, it is gone. Isn't that interesting? And as I look over here and then I look back, the second apple's gone too. Now, when I look around, I have my camera over there. You can actually see the hand come out and take it. So either there's a Bigfoot or somebody's working with him. I'd say hoaxer guy working with him, because it was a black arm that came out with a glove on it. If it was a Bigfoot, it would have had, you would have been able to see the skin on it. The skin would have reflected off of the night vision camera. It would have reflected completely different. It wouldn't have been like a solid black moving. Was it a ghost? Did a ghost take your apple, Todd? I mean, if that was a living creature.
Maybe it's the Woosquatch. Maybe he's diving into the Woosquatch.
Every single time.
It turned into a tree. Turned into a tree right after.
He turned that camera around and it pointed at his face beaconed up white like a friggin' beacon because of the skin. But yet, whatever took that apple must not have had no skin on it, so it must have been a specter. The other thing that I found interesting in the footage was when he was out there in the field and there was something behind the big pine tree. And you could see in the video that there was something physical beyond the pine tree. And then he would cut to himself jumping in the pine tree, and you can see that it wasn't there. And I don't know what that was. However, whatever it was huge. And I mean, huge. It was almost like Bigfoot 2012 huge. Like 12, 14, 16 feet tall huge. Like, I don't know what the hell is that big huge. So,
yeah, that was like
the only 2 points of the video.
Like an elephant tall, something like that.
that I found interesting at all. The other things that were brought up to me was the tree structure, and I was like, well, Dr. Meldrum found a stump for every single one of those trunks except for 2, and that's even suspect. Okay, but did you notice that there were 300 other trunks laying around all over the freaking ground? Okay, all over that same area, there's a disease going through the trees, and they're dying and falling over. So some of them fell over in this configuration. Fine, big deal. Okay. So we put bait out there. They take apples and they put them up as high as they can put them on their tippy toes, and they stick apples to it, and they run off the camp and roast marshmallows and sing Kumbaya while nothing tapes what's going on with the apples. They literally didn't put any cameras on those apples at all. So the next day they come back and sure enough, something yeah, something.
Lord knows a bear or a deer could have gotten them.
Or a raccoon.
Deer will stand on the hind legs and go
crow,
or a raccoon.
A million other things. It wouldn't have mattered. A rodent. I mean, you know. So they come through and they find these tracks.
I mean, that's just, yeah.
They find the tracks and, oh, look here. Look at how heavy that is. Whoa, look at how deep that is. And Meldrum's like, well, you know, I can't really find a good explanation for that. And I'm like, well, why is the moss torn? The front of the moss was torn out. Meldrum stomped his foot down in there and it went in a couple of inches, and Todd put his big old meat stick over there and it went in a couple of inches, and neither one of them tore the moss. Why would a Bigfoot front of the foot tear the moss? Well, it really wouldn't. But a bear, them big old claws hanging out the front of that foot, would tear the shit out of the front of that moss. So that's why it was so deep, and that's why it looked so heavy, because the front of the moss was actually torn out, and the moss was able to fall down to the actual dirt substrate that's underneath it and made it look like a much larger impression. And by the way, yes, a bear foot with a claw mark on it would be longer than a human foot. It would be the size that they were dealing with.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bear prints that have been found to be possible Sasquatch prints before in the past were like, was it a bear's front paw and its back paw step in the same place, so it looks like a long foot.
I was just
even though it's really just a giant 2 bear paws.
Was just working with James, our El Dorado Bigfoot member number 5. He had a friend send him some pictures of his research area that were questionable. He's like, how do I know when I got a good track? I was like, got to look at it. I mean, let's take a look at it and see what we can identify on it. And unfortunately for him, it was a bear track. You could definitely tell that there were kind of claw marks kind of torn into the front of it, and you can see where one paw was kind of not straight with the other one. And what you're looking for in a Bigfoot track is where the back of the track is nearly as wide as the middle of the track. It's kind of like a wedge in the back side of that foot, and then it kind of gets wider and moves into the toe area into the front of it. It's a strange looking thing. When it's smaller in the back like that, you most likely got a double bear impression. But it was awesome because we just worked it through logically. And I said, and the only other thing you can do is go down there and look at it. But remember, and that was one of the things that I'd mentioned to him, find some colored powder, some chalk powder, some pink, or maybe some green, because you can use that chalk powder down inside that impression and get a better look at what's going on than trying to look at white on white on white, especially if it's melted in. So, but yeah, that's exactly it. You know, so those were definitely, in my opinion, they were definitely bear tracks that had walked through there. And that's probably what ate the damn apples. And it probably only came through there because it could smell the sweetness of the apples. But hey, that's just logical thinking in my brain, not, oh, well, maybe it was Bigfoot.
Maybe the same tree sap just came out and eating the apple.
Yeah, Bendernagel was completely useless in the movie. He was too blind to even be able to see or make a call on any tracks in the way. The only thing really was good for was a stand-in on the hill for when Dr. Meldrum was giddily like a schoolgirl, almost coming in his drawers while Todd Standing was showing him the recreations that he didn't bother to investigate himself. Well, it's the truth of it, man. I mean, you have
that could have been more. I just love the definition, the description, though.
And the truth of it comes down to, they mentioned this person named Sonia in the documentary, especially when they were talking about the recreation and the investigation of Dr. Meldrum's supposed sighting. But this person Sonia wasn't in the documentary. Well, why was that? Who was this Sonia person? Oh yeah, Sonia was the interspecies communicator. So apparently for 25 minutes,
now we're getting woo right here.
For 25 minutes, she was interspecies communicating with something in the woods before it walked out in front of Dr. Meldrum. Okay, now. Hey there, hi there, ho there. How you doing there, bub? Yeah, I don't know. That kind of put the halt on it for me. Could a Bigfoot have been back there trying to figure out what the hell was going on, like them watching a monkey screwing a football? Yeah, sure, absolutely. They're in Bigfoot zone. I have no doubt that the animals are curiously coming in to check out humans. I've had it happen to me. Like I said, I was hoping that he got lucky. He's out in Bigfoot territory with Meldrum and Bendernagel in a site that they basically just squatted on that was somebody else's. Oh, and let's go back one other thing that I wanted to bring up. The miraculous tree breaks. Now, the miraculous tree breaks, oh, well, they're all in the same direction. Yeah, they're all in the same direction, and they're like a mile to a mile and a half apart. Who would do something like that? Why would they do something like that? Well, I got news for you. Some of the guys that have the most Bigfoot encounters out there are trappers. Like, I've heard the stories from the people that they stole the site from. There's 2 to 3 feet of snow in that site in the wintertime, in the hard wintertime, when they're out there trapping. Usually weasel type animals. I don't know which ones, but what they do is they knock those trees over, put the trap, knock all the branches off of the top side of it, and put a trap with a bait at the top of it, so that the little weasel goes running up the tree and snap, gets its head stopped in the damn trap. Yeah. And being every mile to a mile and a half apart would be so that they could continuously trap a whole family in different locations. It's what's called a trap line. Go back, don't take my word for it. Watch the show again. So look at the tree. When Dr. Meldrum's talking about the dead lichen on it, well, obviously this tree's stood dead for a while. Yes, and there's only branches on one side of that tree. Why is that?
Yep.
Go back and watch it. I'm not making this stuff up. There's logical explanations for everything that they found that didn't have anything to do with Bigfoot. The Bigfoots don't need to do that type of thing. What do you think those yells and audio calls are for? They're definitely territorial in a lot of cases at night. They don't need to break a tree branch or build a teepee to claim territory. Anyhow, those are my theories and how I hypothesize of what we saw during this movie. But send me a message. I'll be glad to talk it over with you. I don't need to convince anybody. Believe what you want. All I can do is sit down at the fire pit of knowledge and have a talk with you. If you don't want to breathe in the smoke, there's nothing I can do for you. But you just can't trust a man who's already lied to you twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times? No, you don't. Fool me once, screw you. I'm done. I don't even give you the opportunity to shame me. Sorry, I'm out. But this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a guy who's been shunned from the Bigfoot community 3 separate times, and now he's back. And all he's done is repackage the crap that he was shunned for in the first place with a little bit of new stuff that he's picked up in the last few years. And this blackface Bigfoot thing is 4 years old. Nobody believes it. No scientists are backing it. No one thinks that that's a real Bigfoot besides a few diehard, I have to have something real believers. And sorry, it came from Todd Standing. It's not real. Todd Rockwell Productions. Look it up. Actors. Go look on the IMDb for the old Sylvanic Corporation documentary. There's actors. People who were supposedly witnesses to Bigfoot were paid actors, just like Dr. Meldrum and Dr. Bendernagel were paid spokesmen for this one. So there you have it. That's my breakdown of the finding or the Discovering Bigfoot Crudola. Go watch it. It's free on Netflix. It's out there on YouTube if you want to watch it. They're trying to get it. Oh, and by the way, just to let you know how creepy these people really are, they've hit me with 3 copyright claims in the last 72 hours on videos that I have because they might contain a picture or a fair use piece of video from some of their productions. 3 of them now. They're so worried about money and their content out there that they've taken 3 of mine away from me. So I could file counterclaims and make them take me to court, and we could all go spend a bunch of money on it. And I still might. I still might. I might just have to take their profits because I'm gonna win. They don't even know what they're doing. They're just clicking stuff because it's there, and it's ridiculous to the point. Les Stroud's done it to me. Todd
like
Standing has done it to me twice.
The monkeys and the Japanese monkeys poking and pulling the deer's antlers. It's like, you don't want to make that deer pissed.
Right. I mean,
Or in your case, let's see
there's poking the bear, and then
you don't want to piss off the bear.
And then there's poking the bear. Yeah, nobody wants to poke the bear. All right, so let's see. Speaking of poking the bear, let's see who's hanging out there in the live hangout with us tonight, and we'll say hi to all you peoples hanging out there with us tonight. And there were a bunch of people in here earlier, so let's see if we can get to them quickly and move right along. Hot diggity dog! Why does every live stream have to start at 10 p.m.? Well, move west; it'll start earlier. Who? Billy John. How you doing there, Chief? Danny from Texas. Merry Christmas to you, man. Texas. Hey, y'all got that crazy ass reverend down there, like trying to ruin kids' Christmas for Santa Claus. Y'all need to dick kick that guy. He really. Starshine. She's swinging her tool in the house. How you doing? Natalie Smith. She's always out here early with us. Love it. Lance Windsor. How you doing there, Chief? Glad you're with us tonight. Timothy McCune. Hey, that's a name I know. Shane Barber is also in the house, along with just me. How you doing? Glad you're there. Oh God, every week a little bit of snot just gets on my microphone from that. How you doing there, man? Glad you're with us. Cans Quanch. Hey, how you doing? Glad you're with us. Let's see. There's more. I know there's more. James the Grower. There we are. That's the guy I was talking about with that print, man. That was a fun interchange with him this week. Collier Wilmus. That's right. Reno is with us tonight. Our Mr. Announcer man, Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. Boom, boom, boom. Sam Squanch Rivera, there's the man. He's in the house as well. It's Candy Apple, Brown Dwarf, that's right, chilling and grilling. Dean Cooper, our quasi-theorist, he's hanging out tonight. Yeah, I know I did this in the wrong order, but we're going to deal with it because I just realized it. Yikes! 721, good evening to you as well. Our third baseman, Mr. Kurt Harris. And I know that Cassie is out there, Miss Squatchbox, and Christopher, Merry Christmas to you, man. I hope you got Santa Claus on the list early enough to get you what you wanted. Jonathan Doty, how you doing, Chief? Boy, he was watching the Todd Standing special too. Woohoo! Cameron Young, he got into it with me today. It's just amazing how horrible that was. Robles, he's playing around in the house tonight. Diggs 59. That's right. Patrick Cassidy. Wow, everybody's in the house tonight. We having a big old time right before Christmas. I know there's more. I know. I'm getting down like I'm only halfway through it, Chris. That's the amazing part of this. I'm literally only halfway down this list. There is Gone Camping with Mr. Jevin Moore. He's chilling and grilling with us. Obsidian Radio, man. Hey, you finally got one in live. I know you've been missing it. And here, there's more. We're getting there. Jeff Anger. Hey, back at you. There we go. The Reverend Matthew Gaines is in the house. Glad this Reverend. Yeah, it's almost spies like us around here. Hey, look up the Universal Life Church. You too can be a reverend. It's not all that hard to do. Usually 1995 would get it done. Eduardo Nunez. So they only care about money. Yeah, I'm afraid that's the case, Eduardo. I really think it is. They're just in it for the money. John Briers is in the house. How you doing there, sir? And that is the list I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I am so sorry, but that's a lot of people to get through. All right. Hey, let's give us a little break here, Chris, and we're gonna do us a quasi rewind, or a brand new quasi theory from Dean Cooper and a Camping Tips for Stupids. And we people will be right back after these segments from our favorite people. Damn it. Everything's wrong tonight, man. Just
Ooh, boy, that sucks.
Oh, here we go. Maybe? No? It decided no. It decided it didn't
Is it
want to
not
do
working?
that.
Oh man, that's
Oh, it will. No, I got it. It'll be
sad.
here. That should work. I think that'll do it. We'll see. Yeah, maybe. No? I don't know. Y'all can look at my bald ass head while y'all listen to this. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Yo, Saturnalia. At the bequest of the overlord of the Squatcher's Lounge, I must celebrate the coming winter solstice, which is tomorrow, Thursday, December 21st at 10:28 a.m. in the Northern Hemisphere, with a discussion of the Roman festival of Saturnalia. So here goes. Saturnalia has a long and somewhat complicated history, much of which is a bit more than boring. I'll cut it down to the best parts, which are later in the history of the empire. It originally was only held on the 17th of December, which is found to be much too short a time for what needed to get done, so it got stretched to include the winter solstice. What needed to get done? Orgies, 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 and then more orgies, orgies upon orgies. And, has been the case in several of my quasi-dissertations, I must demand you all get your minds out of the gutter. Roman orgies were parties of great celebration, parties of much food, drink, and entertainment. Sometimes nudity was involved, which is to be expected in a culture with public baths. But generally, any sexual congress was done on a small scale and then in the privacy of closed chambers. Except maybe when Caligula ruled. There are rumors about that, and at least one modern stage play with much nudity. So, what were they celebrating? The name Saturnalia says it. They were honoring the god Saturn, obviously. And why would they do that? Saturn was not only the god of time, which is all we say about him these days. He was thought of as the ruling god of the Golden Age, when humanity needed to do no labor and frolicked in ignorant joy. For lo, Saturn did provide all the food and other necessities of the child humanity. From December 17th through the solstice, gifts were exchanged, feasts were held, slaves could eat at the feasts alongside their masters. Slaves could say whatever they wanted to their owners with no reprisals. This was all an imitation of what Saturn did in the Golden Age. Slaves still had to do all the cooking and cleaning, though. There are limits to be observed, after all. Later, beginning in 274 CE, Emperor Aurelian, confabulating Saturn with Assyrian god Solus Invictus, turned the Saturnalia into the festival of the unconquered sun. Solus Invictus was a Syrian version of Mithra, the main god of the Persians since maybe 300 BCE or before. Mithra had become the primary god of the Roman legions by 0 CE. Now, why would Aurelian want to take over the Saturnalia for Sol Invictus? Once again, I must ask any hardcore Christians to cover their ears and hum some Christmas carols. Sol Invictus was born on the winter solstice. His mother, in Persia anyways, whose name was Anahita, the virgin goddess of sunrise. His father was Ahura Mazda, the father god of all things. So there you have it. Saturnalia, at the last, celebrated the birth of a sun god whose daddy was a father god and whose mommy was a virgin. But then the winter solstice was a popular time for sons of God, borns of virgins, to pop out. There's at least a couple dozen of them. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. It's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. Christmas was a naked party in the woods that stretched over 3 days. The day and a half before the solstice and a day and a half after the recovery. Why? Because pagans like to party naked, people. And as far as that Congress behind closed doors there, Mr. Dean Cooper, if Pompeii is to be believed, there were prostitute quarters around every corner. Around every corner. Literally
big times. That's
around
crazy.
every quarter. And with that, hey, it's time for camping tips for stupids. Let's see what our man Jevin has for us this week.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 56. Winter camping can be a magical, wonderful experience. With its white, powdery snow, white Christmas trees that happen naturally through years and years of selective breeding, and the pure white snow-capped mountains. Damn, just look at all that cocaine. Yes, sir. Camping in winter can be a wonderland of fun. So long as the damn government doesn't fuck with the weather with their alien tech weather control machines. Should be fun times in the great outdoors. But one hazard you gotta stay prepared for is for the possibility of a nasty blizzard or snowstorm, where the sky just dumps the snow on you with a wind chill factor of 1,000. You might find yourself stuck, snowed in, and having to make an extended stay out there and all that 98% pure Colombian cocaine. So here's how to stay alive. And pay attention, because I might have to be associated with you on Facebook. 1. Bring a shovel. Hit face with said shovel, because you have to be told this crap. 2. Put shovel away. Check to see if you brought any extra blankets. And I mean the 100% wool kind, because cotton ain't gonna cut it. You can use these for bedding, cloaks, capes, and even heat reflectors. 3. You got plenty of water all around you. Just be sure to scoop up the white stuff, not the yellow stuff. And if you got a dog, don't eat the brown things. Those aren't chocolate. I already covered that in another video. 4. Wood camp stoves and tents that support wood camp stoves should have been the thing you are using right now. If not, then hope you brought a big fat friend to climb inside of, because your ass is ice. 5. And if that said fat friend ate all the extra food you packed for just this kind of emergency, well, you needn't worry, because you got yourself a year's supply of long pig bacon. Happy camping, Donner Party style.
Good Lord.
This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
There you have it, people. Spay and neuter your idiot population, because Camping Tips for Stupids have you covered. There's a lot of good points in there, though. Actually, the wool. Wool will keep you warm even if it's wet. So if you're bringing a blanket in the wintertime, if there's going to be snow, don't bother with cotton. Yes, wool is heavier. We know. It's okay. Bring it anyhow. Outside of that, yeah, be prepared to be camping in the snow. And if a blizzard hits you, well, shit, build a snowman. That's about the best thing I can do for you. Hey, all right, we're finally at that time. I know it seems like it's taken forever to get here, but here we are, man. We are finally. Yeah, it's going to go long, and I don't care. We are talking about North Kentucky Bigfoot with Chris Cullinan. How you doing there, Chief?
All right.
Wow, why did it take us so long?
I'm doing
to
great.
get
I
here?
was preparing. I know you had your rant about Todd saying all that. I'll let your rant kind of stand. His I hate him as much as you do, dude. It's just so cringy, and you wonder why people think maybe he has a good point. It's like, no, he don't have a good point. He's just. But yeah, I've got some interesting stuff up for you today. But mainly, let me share my screen here real fast, and hopefully it won't screw up like it was trying to do pre-show. But this, as I showed back in March when I first appeared on the show, was Jefferson County, where I live. I'm actually up here in the Prospect area right now doing this broadcast, thankfully, on my two screens. But this is Jefferson County in Louisville, which is essentially the same thing because the county and city merged in 2003. But regardless of that, the two areas that I'm going to focus on tonight with the reports is down here in the southwest part of the county. It's called Jefferson Memorial Forest, and it's official city forest, county forest. They call it like the biggest urban forest in the nation, although I think some in Anchorage, Alaska is probably bigger. But it's a giant swath of like rural homes and some hiking trails, which is largely untouched and has been that way for, hundreds of years. And the other part is eastern Jefferson County, near where it borders Shelby County, and I believe this is Anderson County, Kentucky, where it's being developed more and more now as the city grows out. But historically, this has been a very rural area with mostly farmland and a good amount of hilly, hollow area. So I guess where I'm going to start, at least where I looked at on my internet, is down in southwest Jefferson County here. And there's one actually that just happened not too long ago when I visited, which is down in the Memorial Forest. It was called a place called Scott's Gap. And okay, I don't know why this is coming up. But down here in Scott's Gap. So what happened was, and it says this, my mom and I like to hike through Jefferson Memorial Forest and Scott's Gap. Scott's Gap is our favorite location. So essentially the description talks about one afternoon, this witness and her mother were walking down through this area in Scott's Gap, which I've been to, and it's semi-rural, semi-suburban. There's occasional houses every couple hundred yards with land, and then there's just flat-out woods.
Now, let me ask you a question. It's called, what, Scott's Gap?
Yes, that's correct. Scott's Gap.
Is it an actual feature? Is it a geological land feature? Is it a gap? Because
essentially, yes, it is a gap.
Okay, so that makes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, the reason I was asking is because, you know, the Bigfoot activity that we have in the Sierras move through saddles and gaps. And you can almost expect the Bigfoot activity is going to roam between saddles and gaps. And I was just curious whether this was an actual geological feature that animals would naturally move through a gap because it's the easiest geological feature to move through.
Yeah. Looking on Google Maps or Google Earth, this is where it happened right here. And I actually, this past summer, went up here and biked up along here. And it's, albeit there are people that use trail a lot, as it is a city parks hiking trail. It's part of one of the city of parks officially with the county and the city. But this is a gap right here. This is the road that goes along. Let me see if I can go to Street View right here. I was able to earlier. Aha, here we go. So right here, this is. Oh, is it gonna work for me? Oh, typical Google wanting to mess stuff up.
They're like, we can't go underground, mister. I don't know what you want.
Come on. There we go. That's better. Although it's still kind of distorted a little bit. So this is a good thing right here. So this is the parking lot area down here. And that where in this picture, the lady is having her report. You can see the road back here where Charlie Raymond, a person I know personally, with Kentucky Bigfoot as their founder, the road is back here. And apparently she saw this in between her point, which is at a hiking trail about, I'd say, up on this ridgeline right here. The Sasquatch would have been standing, or whatever figure would have been about, well, if this will stop moving, right about where this tree is right here. If you see the mouse cursor right here. And what it is, again, this is a gap. You can see right up here, right up along this edge is a hill. Right up along here is a hill that goes up to a power line structure that runs into the city, actually. And this is just a semi-rural road that runs down here. Down here, it runs down to another main road called Bear Claw Camp Road. And up here, it runs up to some more houses going up towards a major highway. But it's between two it's in an area where there's some houses, but it's very rural. I went up there and it was dead quiet. The only, I guess, artificial human sounds I could hear was the airport, because the main in and out flyover path for planes from our airport is right over this hill. In fact, even from the airport, you can see these hills, which are part of the forest, rise up from the rest of the city. It's actually quite interesting to look at, because the rest of the city where the airport is out here is just essentially a floodplain, the Ohio River floodplain. So what happened was that apparently she was walking up here, walking back to the car in this parking area, and she looked over and she saw a black thing standing up. She thought, wait, is that a bear? And she looked at it for a second. It peeked out and looked at her, and then it started walking away. And she told her mother, "It's like, come here, come here, come here. Look at this, look at this." And they saw the Bigfoot with shiny black fur walking away down to the woods towards the road. And that's what they saw. And they later on, the Charlie Raymond, the lead investigator, said that he thought they were credible. They seemed like credible people, just average mother and daughter walking out with the woods and saw something.
A regular town hall meeting type of
story. It's typical Finding Bigfoot story where they say, we were just walking around minding our own business and we saw a freaking Sam Squanch. Or they just said a giant bipedal thing. I mean, for all we know, it could have been me walking out there in a suit. But I mean, I wasn't out there in 2014 walking around in a suit. So that was one. And another one that happened right near here, albeit it was back in 2003 as opposed to 2013, was just down the road here where it meets up right here. Excuse me, it says Bear Camp Road. Now this one, it's the same area because all throughout this park system, all these hills and hollers and everything, this is all a bunch of trails that the park is involved in that meanders in and around these private properties that are up and down here in the main gaps. But this one dates in 2003 where a husband and wife were out jogging and they're running along the road, and they said they heard moaning. Essentially, I think I think they said it sounded kind of like the Ohio howl when confronted and interviewed about this. But they said along this road, Bear Camp Road, right along here, right along these ridge lines, they said they heard moaning. They thought, wait, maybe it's someone heard. They're worried, oh, maybe someone tripped and fell or broke something. They're moaning. Not
that kind of moaning.
Okay.
I'm curious as to what kind of moaning was going on.
Not moaning like a Greek orgy or something like that, or a Roman orgy. Moaning like
a monkey, like a monkey porking a deer.
Yeah, more like moaning like, if there's any basketball fans out there, you remember a couple of years ago, kind of like that, where the University of Louisville player broke his leg, like you broke your leg. That type of moaning. So they slowed down, came up on a corner, and they saw something squat over that they thought was a bear, because it was, again, pitch black, shiny fur. They thought, oh crap, it's a bear, which also would be kind of weird because there hasn't been a bear in this area. Actually, the most recent sighting of a black bear in central Kentucky was in Bernheim Forest, which is a place nearby, this past summer, but that was from a year, and that was the first time a bear's been spotted in this area in 200 years. So that's unlikely. And then they said when they started approaching a little bit and they turned around, they said it stood up on its hind legs, turned around, looked at them, and then just walked off into the bush. And they said they're like, essentially what they say in the report is that they shit themselves and then walked back to the car and got away.
Yeah.
Drove to the ranger station, and I bet he heard, you saw what? You saw what back there?
No, you didn't see what you think you saw. No, that those things don't exist.
Yeah, it says right here. I grabbed my wife's hand and we ran back to the main road as fast as we could. She was screaming and scared to death. I mean, especially if you're like maybe a more petite woman, even a dude, just seeing some 8-foot tall, 400-pound looking thing stand out and walk in the bush, I'd be shitting myself too. So I mean,
dude, I watched this thing come out of the friggin' woodwork and step down the embankment in front of me, and I peed myself a little bit. Those things are terrifying. I mean, are you freaking kidding me?
I'm 6'5", and if I saw something as muscular and as tall as a Sasquatch, especially a big male, even a female thing, I'd be like, first I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm spotting one. Then I'd be like, crapping myself like, oh shit, I found one. It's scary as shit. So I mean,
it didn't give me the feeling of a great white shark, but it gave me the feeling that if I spooked it, it would rip my arms off and beat me to death with them.
Yeah, I think it would. What I'd say, maybe it's a mixture between like
These
stumbling
people
upon a
are out
black
there
bear
wanting
versus a great
wanting
white
to
shark.
play shiny, happy people with these friggin' things and want to be leaving them gifts and thinking that they're going to be, you know, playing house with these Bigfoot. I got news for you. You'll end up like that lady with her face getting her friend's face ripped off and eaten.
Oh, yeah. They need to think of these things as essentially as what I guess you consider them more like gorillas in that they're pretty much peaceful creatures and not quite as violent as chimpanzees are, but they'll rip your freaking face off if you really piss them off, as a gorilla will do too. Freaking all right, rest in peace, Harambe from the Cincinnati Zoo, old meme. But yeah, I mean they could hurt you if you wanted to, but fortunately, again, like a gorilla, they won't. Their aim is to not hurt you, at least what we understand. Now, other ones that happened was, and this is harder to pin because of development since the 1950s and 60s, but down here in Pleasure Ridge Park, down here, let's see if we can get this on that. Yeah, right here, Pleasure Ridge Park. In southwest Louisville, this area had a couple sightings back in the 60s where, not even sightings, it's reports, they call it the Yowler.
No.
Where essentially people in these neighborhoods, when these neighborhoods were first built in the 60s, they heard in the summertime, they hear howling right along here, these side canals that, yeah, Chewy, except Mitch Chewy with Ohio howling, you get what they probably heard. But this area is essentially right along where you see these woods here. These are essentially overflow canals for the Ohio River when it says it floods banks. So
Right.
what these people started reporting back before all this industrial stuff popped up, when this was more woods and the neighborhoods, they essentially said that it kept hearing from these canal areas howling like the Ohio howl. And
the thing
even
about
one-
it is last week when we were talking to Leanne about her area, you know, she's on that same kind of a floodplain on the river directly there in Kansas City, Kansas. And, you know, of course, they've had development and things since then as well. But it's nearly the same type of floodplain situation that her area is in. And again, you have to be dealing with relic populations at that point.
Yeah.
And there probably isn't much of them left. But 300 years is what it would take for a troop of 20 or 30 of these things to even really be at the end of their genetic diversity.
Yeah. One thing I had to think, and this was back in the 60s, so they haven't had any reporting in years since, mainly, I guess, because of all the growth and stuff that's come along the river here. But
well, you probably can't find much besides rats and friggin' songbirds around there anymore either.
Yeah, that and deer, because Jefferson County, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, oh my God, deer are everywhere. It's crazy. I mean, we'd have at my grandfather's house, which is only like 2 miles from downtown Louisville, we'll be swimming in his pool in the backyard. My sister and I'll be swimming back there. I could dive underwater to grab something, come back up, look in his woods, and you see 10 deer staring at you. They're that prevalent over there. I mean, you remember Jeff, my friend Elliot, who I've had on in their hangouts before.
That jackass.
Yeah, and yeah, he'd be happy. I think he's actually watching the show too. But
nice.
We'd be at his house, which is near my grandfather's house. We'll be in his driveway playing basketball, dunking, being teenage idiots on his basketball hoop, and there'll be a deer 10 feet away from us grazing who doesn't care. As long as the ball doesn't come flying its way, it'll just sit there, keep grazing, not giving a shit. So, I mean, that's just how they are here. But
habituated to the human in presence.
Yeah, that's an understatement, actually, even for us here, I have to say, for that matter. But
ooh, that's another word they used in that Discovering Bigfoot.
Yeah, habituation sites.
Oh, I just wanted to poke him in the throat when he said that.
Oh, yeah.
I puked in my mouth just a little bit.
At first, I don't even know necessarily if it's a relic population or if they're still sustainable, because even with these sightings up here in the forest, this is all part of a large green area that extends south. This green area, which, again, is a bunch of wooded hollers and everything with occasional farmhouses and developments, this is all around Fort Knox. Like, most of these woods stem down to Fort Knox, and I believe there are even a couple sightings at Fort Knox of military people on base that have seen or heard crazy things.
I think we covered those on the last show, that there were some Fort Knox.
I mean, you can see this here. This is a giant green area extending from down here in that Bernheim Forest area where they had the bear sighting, all the way up here to Jefferson Moore Forest, all the way down here to Fort Knox. and it's all wooded area. And I mean, it's just prime
And
habitat. I could see.
if you look at
I
the if
could
you
easily
look at
see.
them, they're raised ridge lines over shadow sides and rain sides of small little foothills and things. They're the type of territory that we know Bigfoot
Oh yeah.
tend to hang out in. So I mean, it's the right
I mean,
type of thing.
the definition, yeah, the definition of like a holotype that you hear hillbillies talking about. Oh, they're down in the holler. This is what they're talking about. Where you have all these little tiny nooks and crannies inside of mountains, the shadow and rain spots or whatever on the side of a ridgeline, as you talk about.
Right.
Off the nut here.
And humans like to settle in those places, and so do critters. So
Yeah,
a lot of times
and I
they're
believe
living
it
hand in
can
hand.
sustain it.
I mean, think about it. The hillbillies
Yeah, it's
haven't genetically diversified haven't genetically destroyed their DNA down in them hollers yet, but Bigfoot wouldn't either.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean,
It
what's
might only
interesting
fork
again
a
is
couple of
that
times, but that's all it takes.
only a little bit of incest, not too much, just a tiny tad little bit of incest.
Loving, just a tad bit of cousin.
Yeah.
Never hurt nobody.
Oh, it was just my cousin. It's not like I fucked my sister on that. It was just my cousin. But yeah, I mean,
Well, technically,
But
through your
what's still
DNA, your
interesting-
second cousin is fair game. Hell, you can go to family
Yeah.
reunions and meet chicks.
yeah, that would be interesting. But what's interesting about this again is that even with the sighting in 2014 being right here on the county line, that's still really close to major development because this road right here, it's called Dixie Highway. This is a major road now in Louisville. This is like this is like our Broadway. Well, we have a Broadway, but this is our.
Is that where the
main-
hookers parade up and down on the sides at night?
Sometimes I know about that,
Yeah,
but
see, how do I know that?
they actually it has a nickname. They call it Dixie Highway because people are known for always dying on it because they always cross without looking or something stupid like that. And the drivers don't even give a shit, so they'll just walk out in front and just get smacked. But yeah, that's that area. The other portion that I'm going to talk about is up here in eastern Jefferson County, and this has even more development in the south end because there's a couple parks out here that were just made recently. And they're actually great parks, but this is areas that have been untouched before, but are now getting many of these high-end subdivisions. In fact, I actually went to high school, but I went to high school out here, and there's a bunch of the ritzy-ditzy East End rich kids subdivisions out here now that they're making because it's prime old farmland, old family properties, including one that my family sold off back in the 90s and became a neighborhood right across from my high school. So, and this is actually the same area where, of course, you probably remember you did your Reverend Jeff's monster info about the Pope Lick monster.
The Pope Lick monster.
The goat man. And actually, Charlie Raymond, again, not trying to mention his name too many times, but
I warned you. That was the third time. Yeah. 3 strikes and you're out.
Third time. Yeah, but again, the head of Kentucky Bigfoot, he actually theorized that the whole Popelet monster sightings from the 1950s were people going around the Norfolk Southern Popelet train trestle out here, fooling around, either going on the trestle to probably be brave and impress girls or just fucking around here down in these hollers. He actually thinks that some of these sheep man, goat man sightings were actually Sasquatch, given the fact that usually it would approach people that got in its territory and start howling and making noise and beating the ground and essentially intimidating them to go away. And that includes getting on the bridge. Although, and that's just stupid in general because that's the second heaviest rail line out of the city. Me being a rail fan, that's just stupid. But a bunch of these sightings around here have been all on the Popelet trestle, which I have to admit, going there and even I haven't walked across the trestle. I'm not that stupid, but I've been up on the train tracks. It's squatchy as shit. You can hear the road, but it is. There's deer everywhere. We've seen coyotes up there. I mean, if a Sasquatch wanted to be around there, which is getting more and more developed, it wanted to be, especially back in the day before all these subdivisions and like shopping malls started popping up. But the main sightings were around here back in the 60s of the Popelet monster and all those legends that came about. And the more recent one that happened, I believe, back in the 80s, this one, yes, in summer 1985, which is nearby in Fisherville, just down the railroad tracks from here, right here. apparently there was an old distillery somewhere along Floyd's Fork, which is the creek that runs along here and breaks off from Pope Lick Creek that goes under the trestle. And what happened is that he and some friends were down there in the 80s, going down, drinking at what used to be the old distillery on an old concrete slab that was on the river. And he said he was down there, and all of a sudden from the woods he heard some loud, something like hooting and howling. Essentially, what you imagine what it says here. Making noises, cracking bushes, knocking, wood knocking, and just making a bunch of ruckus. Like, I think you've heard other reports of them just move around the... Either that, or I think I've read ones where they pace you. You'll be walking out of the woods and they'll pace you just out of sight where you can't see it, but you can hear it.
Right.
Apparently that's what it was doing, and they, as a bunch of drunk teenage kids, they're so scared they just hightailed it out of there and got out of there.
Paralleling. They'll parallel your path in the woods and just kind of...
That's what apparently happened. They said they
herd you out of the woods because they don't want you there.
Yeah. They said that's essentially what it was, and that was not far from the trestle, but along this creek here that essentially goes in a horseshoe shape around this road area. And that makes me think, again, given that there's been sightings as recently as last year down here, not too far in Taylorsville, at Taylorsville Lake, by people. I think this could be another relic population, because this was a largely untapped wilderness and farmland area for centuries. I mean, it's literally within my lifetime that all these neighborhoods have started springing up and taking over that old farmland that used to be just woods and fields. So that's largely it. And you can kind of tell again is that these two areas are the last ones, because if I can say this easily, the way that the city of Louisville has grown over the years in terms of population density, it went in like a nautilus shell. It started from here, went around this side, went around here, and spun around the South Bend, and then up here where I live now.
And just polluted every single lowland area that they could develop. If it was a lowland area, they developed it. If it was a highland area, they didn't bother. I mean, if you look at the map, I mean, that's exactly what they did. They're like a virus. They just blew through the area and took all the resources they could.
Currently, in my opinion, at least for this area around here in the Louisville, north central Kentucky area, the best area you're going to find them is either down here from the Memorial Forest down to Fort Knox in this giant green splotch that also borders the river, either here or up northeast of Jefferson County in Henry County and Trumbull County, Kentucky, where you have also a bunch of these hollers and creek areas that lead down to the Ohio River and drain to the Ohio River. In fact, there's been a group I follow a different group called the Northern Kentucky Bigfoot Research Group that does regular investigations up here on land around Bedford, Kentucky, and up in here northern Trimble County, and they've said they've run into multiple footprints. In fact, if you can think back to when the Finding Bigfoot team came to Central Kentucky, way back when they got the little slugger knockers, or whatever, the little slugger bats that they'd beat against the trees. This is where they were. They were up here in Trimble County, and that's where they had that weird devilish scream on their show or whatever that chills my bones when I think about it. But that's where they had it, up here in Trimble County, where you have about the same amount of hollers as you do in South Louisville and South Jefferson County. So these two areas, as far as I'm looking at right now, are the biggest areas you can look for right now in terms of the Sasquatch in this area. And in fact, I'm looking to, as I've told you, Jeff, before, I'm looking to contact a family member of mine who has a house up here around Campbellsburg, Kentucky, and see if I can go research on their property, because there's been sightings as recent as the 2013 sightings that the Finding Bigfoot crew did. They had one of their sightings that they looked into was of a woman about 2 miles as the crow flies from my grandparents' property. So I'm looking to go there and do some research on myself, just maybe bring along my aforementioned friend Elliot, my crazy friend. We can just go back in the woods overnight and ban a bunch of trees and act like complete idiots, and hopefully a Sasquatch wonders what the hell these dumbasses doing, and walks out and shows himself. So hopefully maybe something like that will happen. Who knows? But we're just looking to do something like that and see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, let's get this thing wrapped up for the evening, Chris. I think we've done a real strong job of getting the point across here. Dean was saying, some of those lower areas, they do actually run further out into other areas. They're not probably relic populations. They're probably roaming all over that southern green area. The upper green area is kind of cut off from things, and the inner sightings, who knows if there's not still a family of things still wandering around where they can in there. I mean, they're quiet enough. In the long run, though, Kentucky's been known for things that go bump in the night, and Bigfoot's been one of those things for a very long time.
Oh, indeed. I can second that.
With that, people, we are going to wrap it up for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Next week is Christmas, and I don't know if I'm going to do a show or not, to be honest with you. I have done 49 shows this year already. That's literally, I missed 2 weeks out of the year so far, and I might just take next week off, but we will see. I haven't quite decided. Chris, I want to thank you so much for being along with us tonight, sir.
It's a pleasure to be back. I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have an after hangout here in just a little bit. Find us over at Facebook, facebook.com/groups/S-Lounge. We'll put you in the group. Facebook.com/S-Lounge podcast. We'll put you at the fan page. YouTube, click the subscribe button, the bell, and send it over to all your friends. Let's grow the group a little bit more, because YouTube's not helping at all. And for those out there who are just mad at me because I can't believe in Todd Standing or Dr. Meldrum or anything they say anymore, well, now you kind of get my understanding as to why. Footage 4 years old, still absolutely no announcement to the world that these things are real videos from anybody. Won't even talk about it in public. If you can get them to talk about it in public and you can get it on record, I'll stop hounding them about it. How about that? That's a fair statement. Right, Chris?
Yeah.
All right. So with that, thanks everybody for being here. Ho, ho, ho. Merry fat. They call me Squatch. They call me
Squatchmas?
No, friggin' Chris, man. Chris just called me something. What the heck was it? He called me Squatchmaclaws.
Squatchmaclaws. That's fitting. That's very fitting.
All the way down the chimney. All right, Christopher. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. And may the Squatch be with you.